If you want to save your first 100k, you are in the right place. Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing my personal journey to hitting my first 100k before 30. The struggles, the mistakes, and the money habits that really made the difference. There will be no shortcuts, no get-rich-quick schemes. Just 5 real strategies that anyone can use. And if I can do it, so can you. Let's dive right in. You can check out the timestamps and skip to the part where it's relevant to you. Here's a little self-intro. Hi, I'm Cici, and I'm 29 years old living in Singapore. If you're interested in personal growth, financial freedom, and getting through life's hardest challenge, you're in the right place. On this channel, I share my journey towards 3 big goals. Firstly, to achieve financial independence. Next, to improve my physical and mental well-being. And lastly, building multiple streams of income. I will be starting a mini-series on personal finance where I will be deep diving into 3 pillars that can truly change your financial life. Firstly, debt. How to clear it fast and stop letting interest eat away your income. Secondly, savings. The most practical ways to grow your savings rate without feeling deprived. And thirdly, investments. How to get started, avoid mistakes, and let your money grow for you. These are the building blocks of financial freedom, and each of these deserve its own deep dive. So, if you have the same goals as me, I would love for you to join me on this journey. So, a little background about me. I grew up in a low-income family of 5. My dad was a taxi driver, the sole breadwinner, and my mom was a housewife. Money was always very tight, and as a kid, I saw firsthand how financial stress can put a strain on marriage and family life. That made me determined to do things differently. I didn't want to repeat the same cycle. When I was 16, I started working part-time jobs just to earn extra allowance. Fast forward to university, I was still juggling part-time jobs, this time because my parents stopped giving allowance. On top of that, I was paying off my student loan. I had taken CPF loan for my tuition, and looking back now, I don't even know why. Especially since the bank loan had 0% interest until I started working. And that brings me to the first money habit that is fundamental in growing your first 100k. Always clear off your debt, unless it's a good debt that's working for you. Not all debt is bad. Things like mortgages, student loans, or even business loans can sometimes be considered good debt because they help you build your future wealth. But high interest debt like credit cards, that's bad debt. And if you're in bad debt, I would highly recommend clearing it off as soon as possible before even thinking about investing. Because here's the truth. If the interest on your debt is higher than your investment returns, your overall financial health will only get worse. For me personally, I didn't want to start off my adult life with debt. So I made it a priority to clear my student loan as quickly as possible, both while I was in university and later on when I started working. When I landed my first full-time job, I was 23 years old with a take-home pay of about 2.8k. At that time, I still had around 12k of student loans left. So I made a decision. I would clear it within a year. Every month, I channeled about 1.2k of my salary into repaying my loan. And by the 9th month, I was able to make one final lump sum payment. I still remember that feeling when I made my last payment. It was honestly so freeing. I could finally start saving up properly for my emergency funds and investment. And that brings me to the next money habit that changed everything. Living below your means. Living below your means is one of the most important money habits you can build. Because once you start earning more, lifestyle creep is almost inevitable. One of my favorite personal finance books, The Psychology of Money, has this line that stuck with me. Building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns, and lots to do with your savings rate. Of course, investing returns can make you rich, but whether your investments actually work, how long they last, and whether your wealth is truly valuable depends on one thing: your ability to maintain a simple lifestyle without inflating it. Another book I love, The Millionaire Next Door, also found that most millionaires don't live flashy lives. In fact, most of them have surprisingly low consumption habits. That's why a high savings rate is one of the fastest ways to reach your first 100k. To be real with you, I was not always the best at this. Travel was my one weakness. I've always loved exploring and experiencing new places, so I couldn't compromise on that. But when I had my first adult paycheck, I also fell into what many of us from low-income families experience: revenge spending. I bought tech gadgets, new clothes, and things I had never been able to afford before. It felt good at the moment, but looking back, it really slowed down my financial progress. If you have watched one of my favorite Korean dramas, When Life Gives You Tangerines, you'll know exactly what I mean. When the daughter finally had money, she started spending excessively. That was me. Then COVID hit, and suddenly I couldn't travel. At the same time, I had a slight pay raise. My take-home pay went up to about 3K because I wasn't spending on flights or vacations. I managed to save about 25K in just 1 year. That worked out to an average savings rate of 65%, which means I was saving more than half of my salary. Just imagine that if I kept saving at that rate, I could have hit 100K much earlier. But of course, life doesn't always go according to plan. In my case, job loss and cancer both came into the picture, and that definitely delayed my journey. And here's the thing, you can only keep track of your savings rate by using a tracking system, which brings me to the next point: tracking your expenses. Tracking your spending not only helps with budgeting, but it also instills discipline. It keeps you from unconsciously inflating your lifestyle. Of course, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the finer things in life, but here's the trade-off. The more you spend, the harder you will need to work to increase your income just to maintain or grow your wealth. I started using a simple Excel sheet to track my monthly expenses. I could clearly see how much I was spending in categories like food, transportation, and shopping. Then, once travel resumed, things shifted again. My savings rate dropped to about 34% because of what I call revenge traveling. And I realized something important. Tracking my expenses after the month had already ended wasn't very helpful. It told me what went wrong, but it didn't stop me from overspending in the moment. So I changed my approach. I started tracking my expenses daily instead of monthly. I use an app called Money Manager, which I highly recommend. It's free, has minimal ads, and is super easy to use. Now, midway through every month, I check in to see how I'm doing. If I'm overspending in one category, I adjust for the rest of the month to stay on budget. This one simple habit helped me bring my savings rate back up to around 50%. I'll be diving even deeper into saving strategies in my personal finance mini-series, so stay tuned for that. Once you have built a safety net, it's time to invest. Safety net to me means setting aside at least 6 months of my income as an emergency fund. Once that was secured, I felt comfortable channeling about 30% of my take-home pay into investments. That's when your money starts to roll. Compounding is truly one of the most powerful forces in personal finance, because it allows your money to earn interest, and then that interest earns even more interest over time. That's why compounding can speed up your journey to your first 100K. Let me give you an example. If my very first take-home pay of 2.8K had stayed stagnant, and I invested around $950 every single month from the time I graduated by age 30, assuming an average return of 8%, I would have already hit 105K. That's the power of compounding. When I had cleared my student debt, I finally started investing. Like many beginners, I wanted something simple and low risk. So I started with the STI ETF, which tracks the 30 top companies in Singapore. It felt like the easiest entry point, and honestly, the returns were pretty good back then because of the post-COVID market boom. Eventually, I switched to the S&P 500, which is a broader index of US companies. But along the way, I made a lot of mistakes. And that's why my final point is so important. Do not FOMO when it comes to investing. When I first started investing, I made a huge mistake. I bought popular stocks without doing any real research. I was following influencers on YouTube, and to make everything worse, I even joined Telegram groups where everyone was hyping the next big stock. The result, I lost over $10,000. My second mistake was trying to time the market. I thought I could wait for the perfect dip before buying in. The problem, the dip often never came. I ended up delaying my investments, missed out on compounding, and ironically bought in at a much higher price later on. I'm honestly just glad I learned these lessons early. Today, I no longer chase hot stocks or let FOMO drive my decisions. Instead, I focus on consistency, sticking to dollar cost averaging, DCA, and only pumping in extra when there's a clear correction. My current portfolio looks like this: 70% stocks, no bond since I count CPS as my bond, and 30% cash. So moving forward, my goal is to gradually increase my REITs holdings so that by the time I retire, I will have a steady stream of passive income to rely on. My financial journey is anything but smooth. And to be honest, I still make mistakes today. I sometimes give in to impulse purchases, especially with how easy online shopping is. And overspending during travel is something I constantly struggle with. On top of that, my medical condition means I need to spend regularly on treatments, and for the longest time, the anxiety made me avoid even checking how to claim properly. But here's the thing. With the right money habits and the right mindset, hitting your first 100K is a lot more achievable than it seems. And I truly believe the journey only gets easier from here. I would like to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from The Psychology of Money. Understand your own time horizon and not being persuaded by the actions and behaviors of people playing different games than you are. It's by Housel, and that's what I want to leave you with. Your financial journey is yours alone. Don't get distracted by what others are doing. Focus on your own game. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to follow along my journey. And I would love to hear from you. Comment below and share your own financial story. Please stay tuned to my mini-series on personal finance. Thanks for watching my video, and till next time.